Hello. Hi, Carolyn. Hi, Patty. I came on a few minutes earlier before starting because I have a question that it seems to be there's a little delay in adding to the chat. So if folks want to just kind of list or name some painful emotions. So these don't have to be personal ones or ones you're feeling or have a tendency to feel, just because we all feel all of them sometimes. But so I'll just write that down. Feel free to write or list a few painful emotions. And that's what we're talking and teaching about tonight. So we'll kind of get some diversity of painful states and see how they fit in this exploration, if you want. But you could also just say how you are or where you're tuning in from, and also welcoming pleasant or joyful emotions. Could be something from today or from any time. Just doesn't have to be something you identify with. And then we'll just wait a few minutes here for folks to come in. Was anyone able to get out in the sun today? Ah, St. Louis, Missouri, flyover country. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's so nice. You didn't have to commute. Just commute to your device. Good to see you here. Thank you. So for folks that are able to access the chat, there's feel free to add any, just kind of, let's just get a list going of emotions that either pleasant or painful emotions, and see when that way. Oh, good, you got out, lovely and fresh. Good, sunny and beautiful, but chilly. Yes, it's more chill coming apparently for us. I'm not sure about in Missouri. Maybe it's warmer there, but we've got cold weather forecasted. I know that's hard for the gardeners. Hi, Carolyn. Good. Okay, just 2 more minutes here. So there's lots of positive emotional states from the sunshine today, I see. Glorious, lovely, fresh. I'm going to be curious to see. I think it's worked before when I've held up books. Hi, Terry. Folks have said that they can read the cover, that it's not a mirror image. So, hey, Kathy, thanks for being here. Fergus folks. And Yeah, lovely. Yeah, so I'm going to be holding up a sheet of paper tonight, so I'm hoping the writing isn't going to be backwards for you. If it is, I'll have to do like doctors do, where they write backwards sometimes and upside down. That's always amazing. Ah, good. Hi, Sheila. So much weeding. Thank you. Joy, happiness, anger, sad. Great. Yeah, any other emotions? Throw some more out there, folks, of emotions that stand out for you, or yeah, just to kind of get a list going of painful or pleasant emotions. So feel free to add those in if you like. So it's 7:30, so I'll just say welcome to folks. As you are likely aware, this is True North Insight YouTube channel. Thank you, anger, loneliness, for sharing those emotions. And True North Insight is a Dharma Vipassana organization in Canada, and we offer meditation retreats and trainings and private support and lots of sitting groups. So check out True North Insight website to look and see if there's a sitting group in your area when things get back online, or in person, not online, back in line. And you may be able to join a sitting group in person again. Weeding brings many difficult emotions: fear, overwhelm, anxiety, uncertainty. Great. Thank you for sharing these. So my name is Jill Davey. I'm one of the Dharma teachers with True North Insight. And so really because of what is, I always trying to teach from what's happening and what's relevant and what's active within this system, and also what I see in my community and in our world. But of course, none of it's separate from me. And so this topic of how to work with painful emotions seemed relevant and timely to me. And I was kind of reflecting on, for different people, and depending where you're living and where the physical isolation, when that started for you, I think it was mid-March for me, March, April, May, so it's 2 months. And for others, it's longer, depending on where you were living and when that happened. But yeah, it's a good chunk of time, and it made me. I was recalling the 3-month silent meditation retreat, and that being a good chunk of time, and kind of not comparing because they're completely different experiences, but relating how that time of retreat. And of course, the form of retreat and the intention is, to really look deeply at how things are, and hopefully have some wisdom and understanding arise with that, and at least some compassion with that. And maybe it's possible that this time of pandemic physical isolation could also be a time where we can use this to bring compassion and wisdom to these mind states. Yeah. So in these teachings, mind and heart are often referred to by a word called chitta, C-I-T-T-A, chitta. It's pronounced, sounds like an H, but it's chitta. And chitta means heart mind, that there's not such a separation the way we have, this is my heart and this is my mind, like my brain organ is my mind. And it's not, understanding is much more complex than that, this whole being is part of the mind experience, and the heart mind is called chitta. I love that term, heart mind. So emotions, we sometimes in our language delineate and separate out emotions from thoughts, and it may not be so separate. That emotions are can be understood as thoughts with very strong physical sensations accompanying them. That emotional states, are not so separate from mind states, and they're definitely not separate from physical states, from sensations in the body. And emotions, like all things, like sounds, like sensations in the body, like thoughts, like nature, like everything, is fluid. Emotions are also fluid. Emotions wouldn't be different than the nature of all things. They are also water-like, fluid, arising and passing, flowing. And yet, many times, they do not feel this way. They feel rock solid, so hard and solid and permanent. And it's like that watery state has become frozen, become locked in, and solidified. And so it's really this state that I want to talk about a bit more. That we can feel mind states, emotional states arising and passing all day long, and but often they become super intense and feel overwhelming and solid, and sometimes absolutely insurmountable for some folks, and sometimes seem like that they're absolutely permanent. And so when that is the case, when things feel that quality of intensity, then we might need a different relationship with what's happening. Yeah. And that different relationship takes some wise discernment, because we need to know, we need to feel into what's needed now. This is really overwhelming and intense, and oftentimes we can't even have a sense of any perspective or how to cope with it. And so this is when we call a friend, or we call a therapist. And every therapist I know is working online through this time. People are available. And so please reach out. So, this wise effort is needed to discern what's needed. And sometimes, as I often say, mindfulness is not enough. Meditation is not the cure-all to all things, definitely. And often we need a therapeutic support. So obviously that's not where I can speak to, but so this is, in addition to that, or if things are not at that state. So what I'm offering tonight is more about this practice of befriending ourselves and befriending others with compassion, this sense of loving kindness, to gently begin turning towards how things are, And and then we'll look a little bit more at how to be how to be skillful with this. So I'm talking tonight more about difficult emotions, but just to also really very importantly acknowledge that pleasant, beautiful mind and emotion states are also present for all of us. And both of these, painful and pleasant, are part of the human condition for everyone. And I'm also aware that some people get way more than their fair share. You know, that's a horrible thing to say, fair share, but hopefully you understand what I mean. Some people, their life circumstances and conditions, they have to deal with a lot more painful emotional and mental states than others of us who have, you know, for all the infinite number of conditions, are experiencing a different life reality. So pleasant and painful emotional states are human nature for all of us to different degrees at different times. And but when things are painful, we can, out of conditioning, out of habit, out of nature, to want to avoid unpleasantness, you know, we often respond to these states by resisting them, suppressing them, avoiding, denying, or numbing out. And you know, this really comes back to the wise efforts. You know, there's 4 videos on here on this YouTube channel that I offered the teachings on each of the different wise efforts. And sometimes when unwholesome, unskillful states have arisen, sometimes we do need to abandon them. It is skillful to choose a different direction, to place our attention elsewhere, and that is also part of being skillful. So, but we want to do that with some intention, with not just out of a habit and reflex and unconsciousness, but to say, oh, this is really painful. It's not helping me to stay stuck in this place. I need to call a friend, go for a walk, you know, watch TV, all the different ways of taking care that we can have explored earlier. But oh, here's my quote. I'm just going to grab my piece of paper here. That with regards to, you know, resisting and suppressing and denying emotional states, avoidance, denial, a teacher, Adya Shanti, says this: if we fight with reality, reality always wins. And yet we try. We must continue to try. No, we don't have to, but we do. Yeah, so if we fight with reality, reality always wins. Very true. Another teacher, Byron Katie, said a similar thing in slightly different words. When I argue with reality, I lose, but only 100% of the time. Oh, that's very good. Only 100% of the time. So we want to choose, if we're choosing that it's skillful for me right now to divert my attention to something else, we want to do that intentionally, not out of these other ways that aren't skillful and intentional. Okay, so when I was on the 3-month meditation retreat, one of the teachers who I was very happy to have as one of my guiding teachers, offered this teaching on painful emotions. His name is Guy Armstrong, and he's an amazing teacher, Guy Armstrong. So you could look up his teachings. He's amazing. And so this next part I'm going to share, all the cred goes to him. This is completely what I wrote down in my little notebook on the retreat after this talk he gave. And it was so helpful to me, really helped me to shift my relationship to those times when I was really stuck in something. So I hope it's relevant and helpful to you. Okay, so there's kind of 4 ways of working with painful, difficult emotions. And the first thing is just to name it, to allow, and the naming is part of allowing it to be there, is just trying to identify as best we can what we're actually feeling. What emotion is this? And sometimes that can feel impossible. Like, I don't know. I just know pain. This is painful. That's all I know. I don't know what it is. And it's important to try to name it, because it helps to develop our language, our emotional, there's a word I'm trying to find, emotional language. There's a better word. But so trying to name it, even when it feels like, I don't know, just take a guess, like even guessing. And then when you guess, like, I don't know, the anger, you'll kind of have a sense, no, it's not really that. It's a shame, or you might just keep working it a little bit to see if you can identify the state. And this is kind of what we did here in the chat, starting to name loneliness, regret, overwhelm, uncertainty, anxiety, sadness, anger. And it's helpful. It's important to try to do this. So then the next thing after naming is just to touch a toe sometimes into feeling the water, of feeling the sensation of it, because it's so much of a mind state, so fueled by story, that to try to feel it as a sensation, even just for a little bit. This is the act of turning towards. This is an act of compassion, to just turn towards it in this different relationship of feeling, I feel, pounding in the heart, the stomach in knots, tension in the jaw, rage in the eyes, numbness, like just naming, I feel numb. I don't feel my body at all. Just feels like a head. This is an important step, and this may be enough to just do that. Just name it and try and feel a little bit of sensation just for a few moments. And so if something is really overwhelming and intense, that might be enough just to touch it and move away. Touch it and do something else. Touch it, go out and go outside, or do some other self-care in some way. So the first is naming, which is the allowing the feeling, name it, try. And then the second is to feel the physical sensation of it. How does this show up in the body? What is this I'm calling grief? I don't know. It's definitely mental formations, but also it's dark, heavy, sensation in the chest, So try to develop that part of your language. And so again, that might be enough, just those two. And then if you're able to go a little further with the exploration, this is the next part that Guy was teaching on the retreat. So this is a fabulous kind of XY axis chart that shows that painful mind states, painful emotions are usually, and maybe always, let's find out, related to timeline. So here's where we're going to see if my paper reads backwards or frontwards for you. So here's my XY axis. And then if I put on this side past, and someone can tell me, does that read the right direction for you? Someone can let me know if it does. If it's, hopefully it's not backwards. If it is, I'm not sure. Yay! Thanks, team. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, so here we are. Here's the XY, and here's our timeline, past, future, right? And then on this up and down axis, at the top, we can put pleasure, and at the bottom, pain. Okay, so it looks like this. Pleasure, pain, past, and future. Okay, so if we think of so if maybe you can some of you might be able to help me fill this in, right? So if we think of something, an unpleasant or painful emotional state that is related to a pleasant, it was a something pleasant that happened in the past. Okay, so what is an emotional, a painful emotion that's related to something pleasant that's happened in the past? Anybody able to type that in? Past pleasant that becomes a painful emotion. Any thoughts on that? So if we had in the past something pleasant that is no longer with us, that is no longer in the present, this brings grief. Ah, exactly, Kathy. Grief. Okay, so grief. Past pleasant. So it was a past experience that was pleasant. And the mind says, this is no longer, I don't have this anymore. This person has died, or I don't, all the things that we lose, that we don't have, that we wish we had, would fit into that quadrant. And then if we think of something pleasant in future, that creates a painful emotional state. Any abandonment, yes. So that's, abandonment. So that could be like there was something pleasant of being loved in the past that feels like it is no more, and that's related also there to abandonment. Thank you. We'll add that one in there. And so something that we anticipate, something pleasant that we're thinking of in future, how could that bring a painful emotional state? Any thoughts on that? this brings desire. Desire. So pleasant that we think of as being in the future brings the painful emotional state of desire, wanting what isn't here, wanting something else, and the clinging that comes with that. So that, then if we look at, yes, desire, craving, exactly. I'll add craving here. Okay, so then, yeah, so there's, so loving someone and then the mind projecting and getting stuck with the thought that they will die in the future or die soon, or, you know, depending, or our own selves, if we're dealing with chronic illness, or even it could even just be the mind state gets stuck with these thoughts of fearing our yeah, so I'm slipping into the unpleasant, but yeah, so it's something pleasant that we really love and want, and we're projecting it into the future and worrying about that. So then painful, so the bottom half of the quadrant, so those were related to pleasant, past and future. And then if we look at the bottom quadrant of pain, painfully situations, painful states, painful emotions, pleasure and pain. So if we think of pain in past, so something from the past that was painful, what emotional states that might bring. So painful in the past. So one of the things that is common in that kind of quadrant, if you will, is anger. So something very painful that happened in the past brings anger. Shame, exactly. Shame. Shame is another one here. And related to that, so when we turn that anger onto ourselves, it becomes shame or self-judgment. Self-judgment, yes. Good. And then the last quadrant there is pain in future. What does that bring? When the mind in mind state, emotional mind state gets stuck in anticipating, thinking about pain in the future. What does that bring? Exactly. Fear. So these are kind of the four big ones. And as some of you have added in here, there's lots of like subcontexts of these, right? So fear, pain in future, fear, pain past, anger or shame or self-judgment, and then pleasure in future, desire, pleasure in past, I can't remember, is grief. It's backwards for me, so I'm trying to read it backwards. Now, you know, this is not something you need to remember, memorize, think about too much. But for me, it was really brought some freedom, some liberation, some release when I'm caught, stuck in painful states, to go through this process of first naming it, try to know what's going on, and then feel it as a sensation. What is this? Where is this? How is it? And sometimes that's enough for it to release. Often. there's been, I can't cite the study, so I won't share it, but yeah, often we find that just those first two steps is enough to kind of bring some perspective, some release from this painful state. But if it still feels really stuck, it could be, we can look like, well, what's really going on here? Is there a relationship with time? Is it because I'm worried this state is going to continue? You know, a couple of folks mentioned loneliness, that this there's a projection into future that I'm always going to be alone. It's always going to be this way, or a connection to past. I have always been alone, or abandonment can come in, with a painful past experience. So often these things can relate to past and into future. But just by having the reflection, how is this related to time, can be enough to make connections for us, to show us that, oh, I am being pulled into past or pulling myself into future. And that can be quite liberating to see that, oh yeah, I'm really just projecting this state into a sense of it being ongoing or has been. And so then the fourth step is noticing the fuel. What is fueling this painful emotion? The fuel is the thoughts that we keep adding on to that current sensation that showed up. Remember, I started by saying everything is fluid in its nature. So if something's feeling stuck, it is stuck because it's being fueled. What's it being fueled with? The thoughts of future, the thoughts of past. And it is interesting to reflect and see how it is for you. Check this out. Everything, as it's been said before, we don't take anybody's word for anything. All the Dharma needs to be checked out in your own experience. But check out, where are the beautiful mind and emotional states taking place? Beautiful states of mind and heart are always in the present moment. Beautiful states are always in the present moment. That's pretty interesting. So this little quadrant I found helpful. I hadn't thought of it that way before. It was quite revealing to me to see emotional states when they're related on a timeline in this way, really get super intense and really get locked in, because at that point I'm fueling it, adding fuel. So something to reflect on and see if it fits for you, and and if it's liberating for you, and if not, let it go. So let's have a practice, and then maybe some time for some more questions about this, or reflections on these states. Yeah, so try to find a place of comfort for the body. Okay, thank you, Vanessa. I will do. um, allow the body to come to rest. And just by talking about these painful emotional states, we might feel that things have um, been triggered or stirred up or touched for us. So just as you're settling and putting down, any device you might be holding, and just let the eyes come to rest, you might like to place a hand at your heart or on your belly, just to bring that compassionate touch that is part of this practice. So just feel what's touched for you. If you feel, you're any tension in the belly or the shoulders or the jaw, or any raciness in the heart or the belly. And bringing a compassionate touch to your own body or heart or anywhere that feels comforting. Another nice touch we can give ourselves that feels comforting is, for some, is to kind of place your face into your hands, cupping your face, or one hand. And then as you start to settle anything that has been stirred from this talk, allow yourself to really come down into feeling the ground. Feel the touch of the body with whatever support you're resting on. And soften any contractions or activation that feels like it's able to release right now. And let's invite in this image of water, of the fluidity, the fluid nature of all things. And perhaps you can feel this sense of flow, of movement here in your body. There may be sensations of the breath as it comes and goes. Sensations or awareness of sounds around you that are coming and going, passing through. Different sensations in the body are coming and going. You might feel vibration or tingling or temperature. And now you might notice mind, the thoughts are coming and going. Cultivating this relationship of just watching and knowing. You don't need to know what the thoughts are. There's just an awareness. Thoughts are coming and going, moving through. And then at some point, if you notice something is becoming stuck or sticking around, thought state or an emotional state, and perhaps there's a gentle awareness of its relationship to time. Is something being projected into future or into past? So we practice naming and feeling the sensations. And then things might just flow through and move on. But if it feels stuck, see if there's a relationship to time. And if we bring the awareness of compassion towards ourselves, then we're creating one of these beautiful states of mind that's always in the present moment. Compassion to something that may feel painful. Your natural state is fluid. May we all develop kindness and compassion towards ourselves, befriending ourselves, and understanding our interconnectedness, that we all experience the pleasant and the painful. And this kind relationship with what is painful within us can be a way of bringing wisdom and transformation. May I and all beings be free from suffering. So I usually keep these meditations online on these devices pretty short and with a fair bit of guidance in them, because I personally find it very challenging and to meditate in front of a screen. But I would really be very happy to hear any feedback if folks would like longer sits or like longer meditation period, or more silence. Please feel free to let me know that, and I will try. I will try. Uh, so there was a request here just to show this chart again. So it's side to side is, let's see, where's some good light and focus. There you go. Past and future. And then top to bottom is pleasure and pain. And then we have grief, desire, anger, and fear. And there's so much more, but interesting to see, for yourself, if something is feeling sticky, to see where might that be. And it may move, like some things are related to past and then we move them into future, or pleasant into painful. These are all painful emotional states. So hopefully you got a chance to see that. Let me know if you need me to put it back up. And yeah, so I'm always open to hearing your thoughts on this, if it's helpful or makes sense, or you think it's not doesn't fit for you. It might take some time and some exploration, but to see if it resonates for you. I found it a helpful kind. I remember being quite surprised. I was like, "What? That's amazing!" Past and future, it just really fit for me, and um, of course, there's times I forget. Yes, absolutely. But sometimes I remember, and looking at it in that way can sometimes loosen, stop the fuel. It stops me adding more fuel onto the fire. So feel free to add any comments you want there, and I'll just read this poem. I did link this poem down below. So I was noticing on some devices, it's not really, the links don't show down below unless you click on the little arrow. There's like a little V shape, an arrow pointing downward. And when you click on that, it gives you a bit more of a drop down menu, and then you can hide it again. And so when you click on that's underneath the video here, it's on the right hand side usually, that little V. It'll show you the links to support True North Insight or to support myself, but also the link to this poem is there. And this poem is from Roshani, that I thought fit. There is a brokenness, out of which comes the unbroken. A shatteredness, out of which blooms the unshatterable. There is a sorrow beyond all grief which leads to joy, and a fragility out of whose depths emerges strength. There is a hollow space too vast for words, through which we pass with each loss, out of whose darkness we are sanctioned into being. There is a cry deeper than all sound, whose serrated edges cut the heart as we break open to the place inside which is unbreakable and whole while learning to sing. Rashani is the author of that. A cry deeper than all sound, whose serrated edges cut the heart as we break open to the place inside which is unbreakable and whole. Whole with a W. So that I linked to the author also down below the video. Let me know if there's any other topics you'd like me to teach on. And I'm back here Saturday at 9 a.m. Yes, 9. I think. Yes, 9. And you're welcome, dear. It does help, these things. It does help to click like and to share on other platforms if you found something helpful. So thank you all for that. And subscribing. We've got like over 1,000 subscribers now on this YouTube channel, which is awesome. And so thank you to the TNI staff and volunteers that made all this happen for us. Thank you. See you, Sheila. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I'm also available to support people privately. If you're developing a practice or have a practice and challenges with practice, you can be in touch through Turn With Insight or my website or Facebook. Maybe I'll put my website is called riversoundretreat.com. So I'm putting all of these YouTube videos on that site, and but also you can message me if you need any support. All right. Any other thoughts or questions before we go? I hope you find it helpful. Hi, Katie. You're welcome. All right. So, if there's no other questions or comments, you're welcome, Kathy. Then I will just sign off. Hey, Natalie. Feel free to message me if there's any other topics or questions you have. Otherwise, I'll see what I find. Something comes so far. All right, dear ones. That's so great. I love a graph that can help me heal. Oh, the moon above the trees. Awesome. I'm going to get out there and see that moon. Thanks, Kathy. I think tomorrow is Vasak, the first full moon the full moon of May. And I'm sure one of the Thursday Dharma teachers may be teaching about that. Okay. Enjoy the moon, everyone, please. If you have the opportunity to connect with the moon and the beautiful emotions that might be touched by that, I hope for you. So sweet evening to you all. Good night.